Newcastle have got money, that's without a doubt, but have they spent it? I think Eddie Howe he doesn't get the recognition he deserves.
I think he does.
If you look at... Yeah, well, he kind of does,
I think he does.
But I think people just think it's a fluke, it's a Leicester, they won't be there. Nobody's talking about them in the top 4 mix really next year. And I think if you look at Eddie Howe before he even spent money, when he took over a shambles of a team from Steve Bruce, if you look at the league table from when he took over until probably now, he's just been consistently in the top 3. And, he's changed players, Almiron, Joe Linton. I watched him play Man United last Christmas before he'd even had a transfer window, and they took them apart. And it's kind of like, it's quite frustrating that people just automatically think, oh, they're just like Man City, they've bought the title. But he hasn't spent that much money.
No, he hasn't.
No, Paul, do you know what? You're absolutely spot on. The owners, yes, I've got money. We know that they bought the club and they've shown that they've got a lot of money at their disposal. And you haven't spent a lot on players, that much as in, your Chelsea's and your Man U's. But what we say, next season, they've got the right, they've earned the right now, because they're in the Champions League, to go out and start spending 200 million, 250.
This is where his problem starts, isn't it? Because you've got somebody like Bruno, who's on 130 grand a week, which is just scandalously low. But he's got a pay structure. He's got to keep his existing players happy, but he's got to attract 200.
So you think he's worth more, Paul, Bruno?
Yeah, I think so. 100%. I mean, I heard this morning that Barcelona were after him. You can't imagine they're going to pay any less than 250 grand a week for somebody like Bruno. I don't know.
Well, do you know, it's really interesting you say that, because this is where I think, Eddie, you're right. Eddie Howe's been magnificent, and what Jammer has alluded to and you've alluded to, I don't think a lot of money has been spent. And people talk about Newcastle. I don't think we've even yet begun to see the financial firepower and the might and the muscle that they've got. I think we might start to see it. But they've not gone out and blown teams away. They have invested in good areas. Isak is one. Bruno is another. In certain other areas, they've gone out and they 25 million for Kieran Trippier. 25 million.
I mean, we overpaid for Wood, but he served a purpose. And, if you look at Botman... well, you just use our whole defence.
But so you think he's worth? How much would you say you think he's worth?
Who? Bruno? Yeah. I'd say if you look at the money that some of the players his level, if he was at City, he'd be on 250 grand a week, surely.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's always hard to say, because it's one of those, does he get in City's team? But that's not the conversation. So you're saying now he deserves a pay rise.
No, what I'm saying is Eddie Howe's going to have a challenge. Obviously, with the Champions League money, they're going to get more sponsorship. They can charge more for the sponsorship because they've got a higher profile. So FFP starts to be less impactful than because we're going to have more money coming in. So we're going to be able to expand the team. And obviously, the end goal is having a squad like City, where you've got a first-team squad on the bench as well as on the pitch. So, but that's 10 years away, 8 years away. But in the meantime, he's got to complement his existing team and just build it to 2 players a transfer window, 3 players a transfer window. But the players that we're going to be attracting are Champions League players, and he's got the problem that you've got people who I think, if Bruno, I mean, you look at Joe Linton. Joe Linton's game immediately picked up when he had Bruno next to him, and I was a coach. So you start thinking. Like, Bruno's got the capability with great players around him. He's just going to get better and better. So, but then if you give one person a pay rise, everybody wants one.
Paul, I got a question. I got a quick question for you. Like, Newcastle have not spent massive. They spent wisely and clever, like Isak and Bruno. Do you think they will continue that kind of recruitment next season, or do you think you're going to see a couple of massive marquee signings? I
don't think he's going to go. Eddie Howe's not a marquee signing guy. But I don't. You just don't know, do you? But I think eventually we're going to have to, aren't we? But I think we're probably... Not
necessarily. If the recruitment does it well and gets the right personnel, they can continue on the trajectory that they are in without spending massive and getting players that are going to upset the camp when they're not playing, etc., etc.
Yeah. It's a tough. As a Newcastle fan, it's really exciting.
Well, look, congratulations. I've been on that journey many years ago, Paul. It is a remarkable journey when you've got a club that's got the financial muscle to go in there and make big statements and bring in big players and make it's getting it right now. Eddie's done a great job. It's about now that next step. What can that next step mean? It's interesting, actually, that Paul's made that point, saying there that he thinks Bruno Guimaraes is now worth 200 grand a week. Well, if that's the case, give it him.
Yeah.
If that's where we're at, and that might be where Newcastle now, because they've made such great strides in a very short space of time, making those next strides and continuing on that upward trajectory that you just pointed out. It's about getting it right. And
it is. If you look around the league and you look at people's wages, that's how I kind of gauge it. If this player's in a very average team earning 100 grand a week, and you've got a player like Bruno who's performing week in, week out, now in the Champions League, you've got to reward that player.